What is good, everybody? What is good? What is good? I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's doing fine and fantastic and all that kind of stuff. So, this one I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from the ladies. Um, I know that. So, I may respond to your comments. I may not. I don't delete comments. So, I would appreciate it if you're going to disagree with me that you do it in a in a respectful way. I know you're going to disagree. I know you're not going to like this comment, but I'm going to say it anyway. I was asked a question about it by a brother who put it in the comment section, so you can go find his name and all that. But I am going to darken it out. I'm going to darken it out because I want to give my honest opinion. But if you want to go look for it, you can. But this is an honest question. This is a touchy situation, I think, from the ladies' perspectives, and this is the whole thing. So, in essence, what the question is should he become a passport bro, or if he finds one, should he bring one back here to the U.S.? My answer is an unequivocal, absolute, full-throated: do not bring them back to the United States. Do not bring them back to the United States. Now, some would ask the question, is there something wrong with this dude? Why can't he find a woman here? All that type of stuff, you got to ignore. You have to do what's best for you, for your mindset, your presence, your attitude, where you want to go, your life goals, your finances, all that you got to bring in, you got to take into consideration. And after you've taken that into consideration, if this brother and others find what they are looking for in a woman in another place, then you have to go. You have to go there. You have to abide by that. Let me just pause here and say that this is not just a phenomenon that is going on. I've talked about this in other shows in the United States. It's not a phenomenon that's going on in the United States. Chinese men are now, because of the high expectations that Chinese ladies have, are seeking wives in Vietnam, in the Philippines, Africa, in Russia, Ukrainian women, all that. So listen, this is not just a Western phenomenon. It's going on there. Now, I've talked about this in other shows. I'm not saying I'm not willing to talk about it, but I'm not going to get into it here. So you can go back into other shows. So the issue that this brother is having, and a lot of other brothers is having, is they don't find the values that you're looking for, and they're not finding the values that they're looking for in the type of women that they're coming into. Now, we could talk about the values of men and the women, but this is a question that's asked by the brothers, so I'm going to stay on the brothers and what he is finding. So number one, my advice is to leave the sister there wherever she is. Now, that's obviously going to depend on your finances and your ability to take flights and all that kind of stuff, and support essentially two different homes. I know you want to be around your kid if you're gonna have kids, and you want to all that kind of stuff. But if you can afford it, if you can afford it, here's what I would say: if you can afford it, live extremely modest, meekly here in the U.S. 1-bedroom apartment, maybe even in your mama's basement, and just set your woman up over there, and set your woman up over there. What the heck? Set your woman up over there, and all that. But I mean, if you're going to do that, you got to be able to go down there once, twice a month. You got to be able to do that, because there's obviously the idea of being used and her having other affairs and all that kind of stuff. So you got to be mindful of all that. So there's a lot of things to consider in your financial ability to support a home, the mental and emotional support that she would need, as well as your children. Your children, if you're going to have them, you got to have a father around, right? So, and listen, I know men who do that, who have they live very meekly, very modestly here in the U.S., and they just take trips, um, depending on their schedule, right? If you have a schedule where you can swap with different people, right? They swap off and take, and make a extremely long weekend, 5 days, 5 day weekends, and all that kind of stuff, and they go down there twice a month to Dominican Republic in particular. That's the only one that I know of that do that, but it can be done. I would say anywhere within Central or Caribbean area, Costa Rica, St. Lucia, um, Belize, or whatever. So, but you got to think about all that. So I said not to bring them back here, and the reason I would not advocate for bringing them back here is because, number one, there's just the corruption issue. I mean, even if the woman comes from a good home, village, whatever, very traditional, there's the potential that she could be, for lack of a better term, corrupted by coming here to the States. The music videos and all the issues that you don't want in your woman, she could get that. She could get that here. She could get corrupted, for lack of a better term. And even if she doesn't, let's just say she maintains her traditional heritage, upbringing, and all that. Do you want your kids going to the schools? I mean, are you going to homeschool the kids? Do you want them growing up with all the different stuff that's here, and the potential for ruination, all the things you want to get away from? So, given those factors, I would definitely not advocate to bring them back here. I wouldn't advocate for it. I'm just, that would be my advocate. That my first, if you got to live here because of your finances, you can't travel or whatever. That would be number one. Number two is go over there and live, right? If you got the money, go over there, live. Go over there and live, and just and all that. That would be my recommendation, right? I mean, it's no secret that I've talked about this on my own self about doing this, right? I mean, I've run into some issues in the last couple of months that have prevented me from really going over there looking. But that's kind of where my head is at, and my heart is at. Absolutely. And I'm not really looking for a woman. I just, there's a food aspect for it for me, the United States, and the chemicals we put in here, our political scene and all this kind of stuff, the price of living, I just don't want to live. I just don't want to do that. But that's me. I'm an older guy. But if you're a younger guy, want to start your life, want to start a family and all that kind of stuff, these are things you got to think about. And if you can afford, listen, I would say if you can afford it, particularly if you got skills, right? If you can code, or if you can do IT tech work, or cybersecurity, or you can somehow work online, or if you got skills with your hand, you're a barber, you're an electrician or a carpenter or something, you can go someplace and work and get a job, and I would leave. You don't no family. I would leave. But that's me. So those are my honest opinions about the situation, about whether to stay here, or how you should deal with that situation. And listen, again, you're going to be looked at as weak, and you can't deal with this, and you're not man enough, and go ahead and get on. We don't need you anyway. You're obviously not the type that we want, and don't worry about any of that type of shaming language, or attempts to hurt your feelings, or attack your masculinity, or whatever. That's exactly what you want to escape from, right? That's exactly what you want to escape from. So that's my honest opinion about how to deal with the situation. It's unfortunate, but there's, if you're a traditional guy looking for a traditional woman, and you can't find it where you are. I'm not saying that there aren't those types of women out there. I mean, they're just hard to find because they're not in clubs. They're not in the typical places. They're probably home on a Friday night, chilling out, doing whatever they're doing, and they're not, a lot of guys aren't going to church anymore, so you probably can't meet them there. So it's hard to find these ladies. It's hard to find these ladies, and you know, and so what do you do? What does a young guy do who wants a family? And not to mention, that's just the traditional aspect of it, of what she's going to bring to you as far as a traditional woman, how she's going to raise your children. Then you got to think about the school system, you got to think about the food, the education system, the all these different situations. Her circle of friends. I also know people. I know numerous people, more than one, numerous people who have brought their ladies back here and they just changed on them. So culture and environment. Sometimes the environment is going to win out over the culture. Sometimes culture is going to win out. Sometimes the environment is going to win out over the culture, and that's unfortunate. So I wouldn't take that chance. And then of course, as I've talked about in other times, right? There's a whole legal system, right? They're here. She breaks up with you. I'm no expert about the visas and all that kind of stuff, but some of those, you're obligated to make sure that she's not on welfare or whatever for 10 years, right? You got to support her for 10 years. This woman gets over here, changes up, switches up, and now you're financially obligated to her for 10 years. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So I wouldn't, I think that the most important thing that you got to maintain your autonomy and self-control over your finances in your body in your as much as possible. And when you start signing contracts that other people are beneficial or can benefit from them breaking it, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. So that's my honest opinion. I would not bring this woman here. You got a good girl. She's over there. She's young. She's probably wants to have kids. Probably comes from a good family. She's got all these different things that you're looking for as far as qualities and traditionalism. I would assuming that's what you're looking for. And if that's what you want, you find her here. I wouldn't bring her here. I wouldn't bring her here. And I've told this to other guys. I mean, you're asking this here, but other guys have told me. I've asked the same question. What's my thoughts about that? It's going to depend on your job situation. But my job situation used to be, we used to work a 5-2, 5-2, 5-3 schedule. I mean, it was 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off, and 5 days on, 3 days off. So I know people who would every third day they would go on, extended vacations. And again, we would do the swap thing. So now you bank up your swaps, and then you can make that 5-3, 5-5, 5 days on and work 5 days off, or 5-3, 5-3, 5-3. Or 5-4 or something like that. You just bank up your swaps and just work it like that. They would work a double for people, so that may be an option to get to a place where you got to be. But you got to live humbly here, because now you got to pay for plane tickets. Now you got to pay for, for her to live and or support them, particularly if you start having kids and all this kind of stuff, right? So you got to maybe live with, have a roommate here and just live very, very meekly, very, very low key, So those are all things you gotta do, depending on your finances. But if you have the skill set just to move, I would just do it. Provided your family situation. By your family situation, I would say, if you don't have any kids here, and if you are, you don't have to take care of your parents. Maybe they're elderly or need help or whatever. Make sure that they're taken care of. But if you have that ability to go, I would just leave. All right, so again, I know that there's going to be some disagreement here and calling this dude weak and calling my advice terrible and all this kind of stuff. But why don't I tell men to toughen up? I've done that in other videos. So go watch my whole 80 plus videos of telling men to do better, be better, and all that kind of stuff. But if this man is not finding what he's looking for, how long do you continue to look? How long do you continue to look for that needle in the haystack, or for that, or as SpongeBob once put it, the haystack in the hay in the needle stack, right? You digging through. I don't mean to call Western women, or particularly American women, trash, but In fact, I'm not saying they're trash, but I'm saying that analogy is I got to dig through all this harsh stuff to get what I really want. And he's found something. He's willing to build with it. Why should he not go for it? So again, if you're going to disagree, just be respectful in your disagreement. I would appreciate that. I know it's coming. I know it's coming. But this is the truth. And if I was a young guy, and if I knew what I knew now as a young guy, if I knew what I knew now as a young guy, 22 when I came on, it's exactly what I'm telling this man to do is what I would do. Exactly what I would tell him to do. You know, you can. I mean, it could be anywhere. You can fly to Mexico, Costa Rica. I wouldn't keep the flights over 4 hours. You know, to go see my family. I wouldn't do that. But that's just what I would do. And those flights are going to get expensive. You got to save up the money. It's going to be expensive. I mean, but you got to have the money to do it, right? So, but if you're a fairly good earner, fairly good educated, fairly well educated, good education, and you got the money and the time off from your job and all that kind of stuff. And there's another brother who works. I want to say he works like 5-6 months out the year, just banks his money, lives very modestly. He's a YouTuber, and then he just lives over. I want to say he goes to Colombia or Brazil for the other 6 months of the year, and just lives off of what he did. But when he's here, he works 5-6 days a week, doubles. No social life. Then he goes over there and rests and relax. And I don't know if he has a woman over there, but that's what he does. So I know this is hard to hear from a perspective. You know, this is probably hard to hear as a woman who's saying, man, you know, these men would rather take trips and flights and not deal with us. Some would say, okay, F them. You know, I don't care. We don't want those type of men anyway. And on the other hand, there's going to be those who be like, oh, why? What's wrong? So if you're gonna disagree, just do it in a respectful way and all that kind of stuff. So those are my honest thoughts about with this brother and any other person who's in those situations. And I said person because if you're in the same situation as a woman and you find a guy in another place, generally it's just different for men and women because women generally want a man who's going to be a provider somehow, some way. And they don't want to. Does a woman really want to kick out money to help support them? Oh, you got to support their family. That's not always true. That's not always true. In fact, there's a woman, Filipina P. She said that she's in the Philippines. She said that's not true. You know, but some have said that there are some men who said that, they give them, the family a certain amount of money. So you got to work all that out. Those are things to consider. They are things to consider. But yeah, would I do it if I was a young guy? Yes. Would I recommend my son to do it? Yes. I'm not going to tell you or anybody else what I would recommend for anyone else. The environment here, unfortunately, is hostile to relationships from a legal standpoint to a cultural standpoint. It's just hostile. It's not what I would want. It's not what I would want. I mean, I know there's this idea to get us to fall in line. It's not what I want. And apparently it's not what this young man wants. So, all right. Reluctantly, let me know your thoughts or your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going. Much love and peace.